Monday to Friday at 12:30 p.m. only on Bloomberg Quint.
Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching our Speak You on Bloomberg Quint Live. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
And I'm Alex Matthew. Well, when we've reached the end of the week, but it's still the perfect time to ask questions if you've got any on equity. You can send them in to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp. You can also call us on 022454044141, or you can mail us on askpq@bloombergquint.com. Just make sure to add the AskPQ hashtag.
Okay, but before we get to the individual queries on the show today, let's tell you what's happening with the markets. Well, we had a good opening, so to say, but the markets are off those opening levels right now, but they're also off day's low, I guess. Nifty did slip below the mark of 11,000 very briefly. It's now trading somewhere about 11,030. Sensex also sitting with some bit of gains, but pull up the bank Nifty and also the broader market indices, which have seen more pain actually in today's trading session. Bank Nifty is trading with cuts of almost 40 points, but I guess it has slipped below the mark of 27,000 as we speak. Let's just pull up the broader market indices, which have been underperforming today. Mid cap down 1%, small cap down almost 2% in trade. So once again, the broader markets have succumbed to the selling pressure. At least we did see that in the second half of the session, also in yesterday's trade. Let's just pull up the market breadth. I guess that's going to give you a better picture of the entire listed universe on NSE. It is very visible that it is in favor of the declines. That's the advanced decline ratio, almost 1:3. Let's tell you the sectoral losers. Nifty PSU Banking Index, Realty Media are right now your top sectoral losers, and a couple of stocks to keep an eye on ahead of numbers. Infosys has been trading in the positive territory. That's up 1.5%. Also, Bajaj Corp will be coming out with its first quarter earnings. That's up nearly 2% in trade. Earnings reaction seen for Karnataka Bank and also Sign. Both these stocks have tumbled quite sharply in today's trade. We did speak to the management of Karnataka Bank. They posted the highest ever quarterly profit. They sounded pretty positive also going ahead for FY19, but the street is not liking the numbers. Remember, the asset quality, marginal improvement was there in the first quarter, but still that's down almost 7% in trade. Couple of other gainers. Merck Electronics is up in trade. You've got Adani Enterprises, that's your top F&O gainer. Shriram Transport also surging in trade, up almost 3%. On the losing side, you've got Den Networks, Hathway. Both of them have seen substantial losses today, and also something like GNFC and IDBI Bank, which has come out of the F&O ban for today's trading session, has seen, I think IDBI is off the day's low. Can we pull up the intraday chart of IDBI Bank? I remember this being down almost 4 to 5% in trade. Yes, it's off the day's low, so there is some bit of buying which is coming at the lower levels.
All right, that's how the markets look this Friday afternoon towards the end of the week. Let's get our two experts of the day. They're both in studio today. Aditya Agarwala of Yes Securities and Sharmila Joshi, who is an independent investment advisor. They're both here to answer your queries today. I'm going to take the first question, in fact, which is a mailed query. Swati writes us a mail. She wants to know what the 5-year view is on Capital First, whether it makes sense to enter at the current levels. Let's pull up the chart and see what it's trading right now. Capital First just above that 500 mark, about 2% lower in trade today. We've not heard much on the merger with IDFC, apart from the fact that they have received the RBI nod. That could bring a lot of benefits to them in the future. Would you say that? Does it make sense in the long run?
Yes, so I think precisely, which is why I was just thinking that 5-year view could be a little difficult to take, because, at the end of the day, you have to see how this whole thing pans out. So I would suggest that you stay invested until that event happens, and then just give it a little time, in terms of where the prices are at, the ratios, etc., and then take a call from there. Per se, I'm positive on the fact that these two are getting together, but let's see how that plays out.
Okay, that's the view in Capital First. The count is down almost 2% in today's trading session. Let's just pull up UPL. Remember, that's a Nifty constituent, and we've seen aggressive selling in the last at least 3 sessions that I've been observing this counter. It's off the day's low currently, but still it's sitting with cuts of almost 4%. Aditya, if I could come to you on the charts, where is the support coming in for UPL? Because a lot of our viewers have written to us, and probably they also want to know the reason why it's falling. I'll take the query to Sharmila for that. But in terms of levels, what should they watch out on the downside?
So downside, the level from where stock has bounced back in trade today seems to be a good support zone. So close to about 560 to about 550. That is a support zone. Not a bad area to actually look at accumulating the stock. Though the stock has witnessed significant correction, it's almost down about 10% this week, and volumes are high in the correction. But having said that, good support zones are there in the vicinity from 550 to about 560. I expect a bounce back in the stock, minimum to levels of 600 to about 620. So one can take a bet at current levels.
Sharmila, any idea why the stock is falling?
Well, I think a couple of reasons. One is that numbers have not been that great these last couple of quarters. So numbers have been sort of sluggish. UPL also has a lot of exposure to global business, because they do have that model where they have a business in Latin America, Europe, China. So I think the LATAM piece has been a little sluggish last couple of quarters. So
because of the currency route there?
Inventory build-up and all kinds of reasons being attributed. So I think that that I think has been the reason why the stock has been overall down. And I think this last bit of sell-off also has been come because of this acquisition that they're talking of, that Arista, which market has perceived to be a little expensive. So, I think that what happens in the market like this is that you want to sell the weak names, and this comes up as that. So whether it is on a fundamental level or a technical level, you sort of want to make money by shorting an idea, and that could well be UPL. But per se, I'm not negative on the stock at this valuation.
Okay.
Okay, Vivek Kanoja on YouTube has asked the same question a second day in a row. I didn't take it yesterday because I thought we've already referred to this question, but apparently we haven't. Long-term view on Morpin Labs is what he's asking for. If not Morpin Labs, would you recommend something else and he's asking for a small cap name. If not small cap, would you recommend something in the pharma space?
Well, it's nice to know that people are finally beginning to look at pharma as a place to sort of get their investments in line. There's a stock called Shilpa Medicare which I like. They've recently got that US FDA thing going for them, and it's in the oncology space, which always is a space that does well because of the nature of the business. So it's I think available at a fairly good price. So I think Shilpa Medicare is one stock you could look at.
Okay, currently trading at around 407 right now.
Okay, that's about Shilpa Medicare. Let's try and take some queries from Facebook now. We've received a lot of your queries there. M. Kumar is asking, what's the view on Prakash Industries? He's holding 100 shares at 192 and he has a 6-month view. Can we just pull up the chart of your Prakash Industries and check what the current price is? Okay, so it's fallen quite sharply from our viewers' buy price of 192. Aditya, he has a 6-month view. What would you advise? Should he hold on? What should be the stop loss here or average?
So I would recommend hold on to the stock. Stock is coming close to the support zone of 125 to about 130. Right now it's almost there, about 149 levels, and since the gentleman is sitting at a huge loss, makes no sense booking out loss at current levels. So look at support levels of 120 to 125 if the stock halts there. So you have to wait and watch in the stock. If the stock halts in the range of 120 to 25, that can be a good zone to accumulate further and average your stock. From there, stock can see an uptrend to levels of 180 to 190 again.
All right. Well, we have Ananta Venkatakrishnan, since we are on Facebook, who's asking a question about Cholamandalam. He's saying that he bought 25 shares at 1640. The stock is currently trading at around 1,580 today. Year to date, it hasn't done particularly badly, but he's still losing money on his investment. Should he hold on for the long term?
Yes, I think from a valuation perspective, you can definitely hold on to the stock, and good sound name based in south of India. And overall, I think we are seeing a market where really the financials are playing it on the front foot. So I think that's the space to be in, and Cholamandalam is a decent name in that space.
Okay, hold on to Cholamandalam. That's the advice coming in from Sharmila. I want to pull up the chart of Yes Bank because that's the next query from Bharat Bhushan and also Abhishek Rai. Abhishek wants a technical view on that, and Bharat Bhushan has bought 1,000 shares. You've already taken that, is it?
No, he can't give Yes Bank because he works for Yes Securities.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm really sorry, both of you, since Aditya will not be able to address the technical query, but Sharmila, fundamental view.
Yes, I think among the private banks, definitely a good name to hold on to. I think today we got a little, it was a bit on the news because of this Fortis deal, because they are a shareholder in that. So maybe they'll it all depends on what price that the shares are, what the shares are priced at. So for to see the benefit on Yes Bank. But overall, I think even if you leave that piece aside, it's a good bank, and if IndusInd Bank results are anything to go by, I think most of those banks within that space will have similar inline sort of numbers. So it's a bank I like.
And that you can't even give support and resistance level. No.
So this was the query yesterday also. So I was in the Hot Money show yesterday. Couldn't speak on Yes Bank yesterday.
Sorry for that.
Fair enough. All right. But we will remember, and we will take this query perhaps on Monday if you can tune in and ask us then. We've got Sujata Naik, who's asking for a view on Ashok Leyland. She's holding quite a few shares. In fact, she's holding 12,350 shares of Ashok Leyland that she bought at 138. She's saying she's in a great loss. Look, I don't think that's the case, because it's only about 5 rupees lower than your buy price, so you're not losing a significant amount of money. Are you sanguine on Ashok Leyland for the long term? You haven't seen them really reaping the benefits of a CV turnaround, and to be fair, we haven't yet seen the CV turnaround that everyone's been speaking about for some time will be coming, right?
Well, actually, we have seen it because the numbers have been good, and I think I like Ashok Leyland, in fact, at this price, because you know, very honestly, the stock has come a really long way over the last 3 or 4 years. So we shouldn't look at it from that last 1 year sort of a perspective, because, you know, when you travel a journey from 200 rupees to 150 rupees, you do tend to spend a little time in that 130, 140 sort of region, which I think the stock is doing. And, you know, the things that they did to take them there in terms of their balance sheet, bringing debt down, new innovations within that space, I think all that is now beginning to pay off. So,
and a lot of people have commented about the fact that they've done their capex, they've got the lineup of vehicles out there, and right now they're reaping the benefits of that.
Correct. So I think they will continue to do that. I would have a target of about 155 in the near term on the stock.
Just to add to that, probably she must be feeling the pinch because I think she's bought a huge chunk of Yes Bank. So just a recommendation: take position according to your ability in any stock. So probably, because if you take too much of exposure in any stock which you're not able to hold on for a long term, that makes a little bit problem.
So diversify your portfolio
and don't leverage. Especially in these markets.
Yes, I guess Sujata had also written to us during our F&O show, Alex, and we couldn't address Sujata's query that time, but we hope we got your query answered now. Let's move on and take some more queries which are coming by. Avanti Feeds is the next one. Shivu SB wants a 6-month view on this stock. Let's check what Avanti Feeds is doing right now. Okay, that's a long-term view, but 6 months is what our viewer has mentioned. Down almost 1% in trade. How are the charts looking? I think this was entered into ASM, and because of which there was a selling pressure.
Yes, and continues to be weak on the chart. So immediate term, I don't see any upside in the stock. Probably stock will continue to remain under pressure.
So what's the range that one can expect for next 6 months?
So probably 400 is the next support zone. If that breaks, I'm looking at a downside target of 300 on the stock. So there will be pressure, no doubt, in the stock. And I've been addressing this query every week. If you are looking at a very short-term trend, then definitely the trend is weak. Exit from the stock. Probably if you're looking from a long-term investment horizon, then you can actually take a look at the stock, but not.
Sharmila, a lot of the stocks, which entered into the F&O, not F&O, sorry, ASM, have taken that beating. Be it Radico Khaitan. I think I just read one query on Radico Khaitan. Don't know clearly what it is, but fundamentally nothing's gone wrong with stocks like Graphite, HEG, or be it Radico Khaitan. What would your advice be to investors who are holding on to these stocks, or let's say if somebody wants to now make a fresh investment at lower levels, would you advocate that?
Well, for Avanti Feeds, things have gone a little wrong, because there has been concern for this shrimp business from the US side, and which is why probably you saw these stocks correct out of turn. So while HEG and Graphite also did correct, you've seen them sort of try to make their way back up, because I think there the fundamental story has been recognized that it's on a strong wicket still. But I think for Avanti Feeds, that's a concern. So they are obviously working at alternate models and trying to reroute it through another country, etc. But I think wait and watch in terms of numbers for a couple of quarters, see how it's going for that
Any
business.
view on Radico Khaitan?
Radico Khaitan, again, I believe is in the distillery space, so there should not be any concern fundamentally, but I'm not too sure. I've not looked at it recently.
Okay, there's an interesting stock. In fact, Ramesh M is pointing out HCL Tech. He's asking for a short view. It was in the news, of course, because of the buyback that was announced, and the price of the buyback was 1,100, which was around 10% premium to yesterday's closing price, if I'm not mistaken. It's down in trade about 2%. Both of you, do you want to weigh in here on HCL Tech in the short term?
So stock definitely looks good to me. There is immediate downside definitely. So there was a gap up a couple of days back opening for the stock, and stock hit levels of 1020. Right now it's just throwing back some bit of its gains. So 960 is a very good support zone for the stock. I would take a long close to about 960 odd levels. Keep a stop close to about 940. I see higher levels in the stock definitely.
Do you want to comment on the fact that the 4,000 crore rupee or the buyback?
So I think the price is not something market has liked too much. And then if you think the management is going to participate in the buyback, then the acceptance ratio really goes down. So which is why you're seeing the pressure on the stock. Otherwise, I think in terms of numbers, the valuation is trading at it's a very, very decent stock.
Yeah, and it's done reasonably well, around 11% in the year-to-date period.
Yeah, in fact, all the IE stocks have been performing pretty well. But if you compare that to the returns that TCS has given, Alex, I think that's up nearly 35 to 40% on YTD basis. Okay, let's move on and take Vinod Kumar's query. He's written to us. He's a long-term investor and he's entered into Tata Global Beverages at a price of 270. He wants to hold this position for the next 3 years. He's asking if this is a good stock to keep in the portfolio, or he should look for an alternative stock to Tata Global Beverages. Sharmila, recently, I think these stocks, Tata Global, Tata Coffee, were in news because of, I think Bloomberg reported that Tata Sons is mulling to merge their foods and beverages business. There was a bit of spot, but I think the stocks have now cooled off. So somewhere about the current level is where he's bought. Should he hold on for 3 years, or there's an alternative stock that you have for him?
Did we discuss this stock last Friday?
Possibly.
About beverages.
Yeah, we did. It was tea and something else.
Coffee.
Right?
So she prefers coffee and she like Gangu and Tata Coffee.
I think it was coffee and beer.
Yeah, it was.
Well, anyway, I think I like the stock. I like the Starbucks play. Also, the fact that where they're taking the Himalaya
personal
water.
preference. I want to know the fundamental view.
Yes. So because the Starbucks story is panning out very well. The way they're planning to grow their stores, and I think as a consumption play.
Okay.
Really, because we are an aspirational society, and you do like the fact that you can get to go to a Starbucks. So you are seeing that expansion. They have sort of outlined their plan for the coming years, and again, even in Himalaya water, that whole infused fruit infused water, etc. That is also gaining popularity. So both these businesses, I think, will do well for them going ahead. And let's see if anything from that Tata Sons news of merging these businesses comes about. But at current levels and the business that Tata Global is in, I like the stock.
All right. Sumit Agarwala is asking on Facebook whether we can discuss Gati. Sure, of course we can. Let's pull up the chart and see where Gati is trading. Around 89, about 0.3% low, higher in trade. What's the perspective here on Gati and perhaps some of the other companies in the logistics space?
Well, this whole GST was supposed to give a huge leg up to logistics as a business, and honestly, we haven't seen that play out in the numbers. I think the reason is that GST is not something that is going to immediately translate into better business for the listed space. But I think going ahead, that is something that you can expect. Within that space, I like Gati, but I think you'll have to be patient here, because if you are expecting that sort of benefit from GST to trickle down to these companies and for them to show better profit, I think that is probably another 6 months in the making.
Okay, let's move on and take some more queries. I think we've got a caller with us, Harish, who calls us from Hyderabad. Hi, Harish. Good afternoon, and thanks a lot for calling us. Tell us, what's your query on?
Yeah, a very good afternoon. Actually, my query is regarding some large cap stocks, that is Kotak Mahindra, HDFC, Reliance Industries, and Infosys.
Okay.
I didn't invest it, till now I didn't invest in them, but I'm planning to invest them. So all of them are almost trading at their best right now. So I just want to know what is the right level to start investing in them, and is it fine if I do it through SIP mode? Okay,
Harish, what's your time horizon to keep these stocks in your portfolio?
I'm a long-term investor.
You're a long-term investor. Okay. So you want the entry level, right? Or you want a fundamental view whether these stocks can be held in the portfolio for the next 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, at what levels I must enter?
Okay.
What is the right
Aditya,
time to enter into
you can
those?
help him out. Kotak, HDFC, Reliance and Infosys, are these good levels?
Reliance HDFC Bank, HDFC Limited.
Harish, is it HDFC or HDFC Bank?
HDFC Bank.
Okay, all right, HDFC Bank, Aditya.
All the stocks are running away. As far as technicals are concerned, they definitely look very strong on the charts. I would recommend go via SIP because he's ready to do SIP in all these stocks.
But should he start ASAP?
Yes, he should start immediately doing a SIP in all these stocks. Probably use 3 to 4% corrections if any happens in these stocks, because a 3 to 4% correction doesn't last for too long in these stocks. All the 4 names that he's mentioned. So these will be very good opportunities to again buy more. So a SIP is definitely a very good way of investing in these stocks. And if I take a look at the monthly chart, the yearly charts, definitely these are stocks you want to build your portfolio into it.
Okay, I'm just going to club one query here. Somebody wanted to know, Sharmila, what's a better bet, Infi or TCS? What would you recommend?
I prefer TCS.
TCS.
Though Infi results are expected today, but I think overall I prefer TCS.
But the valuations are on the higher side for TCS still.
Yeah, so I mean, we can use the same approach, do a SIP, etc. But I just feel that going ahead, they seem to have sort of addressed the challenges that a large cap IT business faces, which is not a confidence that which is something that is still to get from Infosys. So of course, I think numbers for Infosys, I'm not really expecting any concern there, but I'm just saying that going ahead, the kind of large contracts they've got, TCS or their digital foray, I think all that to me is a little better than Infosys.
I want to add another query, in fact, in the same breath, is that we've got a viewer asking about ITC, and since we had Harish ask about these large cap companies, all of them, in fact, today's trade, yesterday's trade also characterized by the fact that these large cap companies are doing well in trade. How should a new investor look at it? Do you invest at this level considering that the valuations seemingly are pretty high? Particularly in the consumption space, in the FMCG space.
Yeah, so I think, as Aditya was just saying, I think the first thing is that start investing. That I think, should be your basic this, that if you haven't invested so far, start. And then if you look at an SIP route and you try to buy them on lower levels when you get corrections, that's the best thing. Because, it's very difficult to time and to talk of levels in that sense, because, all of us have acknowledged somewhere that this market is ahead of its levels. In a lot of sectors. So there could be a few under-owned and sort of not very expensive sectors, but you are not looking at them because you don't know, you're not sure how soon things will get better for them. For instance, cement. Nobody's really looking at it actively as an investment space because you don't know how fast things will improve there. So I think then you're left with companies where you sort of see good growth going ahead. And I think the consumption and FMCG and ITC really fits that bill. So you are really left with no choice then.
Okay, that's ITC for you, down 2.3%. Mukesh Saini writes to us, and Mukesh is holding 1,650 shares of HCC bought at 40. He wants to know what to do. He is into losses because the current price is somewhere about 11. Yesterday, remember, there was an annual general meeting of the company where they could not give any timeline with regard to their Lavasa project, in which HCC themselves have invested nearly 1,000 crore of equity, and probably that's the reason why we've not seen any sort of improvement when it comes to the stock price movement as well. Aditya, I know what you're going to advise him, but what should be the strategy when somebody is already sitting on so much of losses? From 40 to it's come to 10 or 11. Right away exit or wait for some time?
See, ideally what happens is these stocks, they definitely bounce back from their extreme oversold levels. The bounce back is very sharp, 10%, 15% in a day. The problem is if somebody has put money in these stocks, he has to monitor that on a daily basis, consistently. The day he sees a pop of probably 10 to 15%, just exit from the stock. If you're not able to manage monitor the stocks on a daily basis, you don't know. Today the stock was up 11%. In the next 1 week, it will give away all its gain and probably will be sitting at a fresh 52-week low. That is why I suggest exit straight away, because you're not monitoring your stocks on a daily basis. And markets are so dynamic right now. The stock which is up 10% intraday gives away all its gains.
That holds true for JP Associates very quickly?
Exactly, exactly. For Suzlon, for JP Associate, for HCC. And no matter how much money you're saving in these stocks, just put that little money in some good quality stocks, which will make good for the loss that you're making right now.
All right, so I think that answers Abhay Singh's question also on JP Associates, because he's holding 1,000 units at 13. He's got a long-term view. Anyway, I'm going to take Abhishek Gupta's query. You very briefly spoke about this, Sharmila, the cement space. He has invested in Rain Industries. He's got a long 1 to 2 year time frame, but he's losing money on his investment. He bought at 319 levels. The stock is currently at just about 179. What should his strategy be? In fact, it's down 4.5% in trade today.
Yeah. So I think results actually last quarter were fairly okay for a lot of the cement companies. They have had challenges in terms of pricing, petcoke prices, etc., which have brought down margins. Capacity utilization levels are lower. But I think the positive in the whole story is the fact that this is in direct correlation to your GDP. So if you're expecting your GDP to improve, you should see a pickup here. But I would actually prefer some stock other than Rain Industries. I think it might be better to invest in India Cement or an Ultratech at this point in time. If you want a larger stock, go with Ultratech.
Okay, have you addressed Karur Vysya Bank?
No,
I don't think so. Okay, so Ananta Venkata on Facebook wants a view on this one. Ananta is holding 50 shares at 150 rupees. He wants to know, should he hold or book losses? So it's 100 right now and bought at 150, Aditya. What to do?
I would recommend hold on to the stock. Stock after correcting from 150 to about 95 is seeing some sort of consolidation right now. Definitely it's not out of the woods, but looks like it will get out of that consolidation very soon. So above 110, I see stock going back to levels of 140, 50. At current levels, definitely a hold. And probably average more if it crosses 110. That will give the movement to the stock.
All right, Govind Vijay is asking about fundamental view on Meghmani Organics. That stock is currently trading just about unchanged, I would say. Well, you can look at a 3 rupee change, is down 3% in trade today. Well, what's the view? Do you recommend getting in for the long term?
Yes, I think you can. Overall, this is a space that again sort of benefited from that whole China story, and you saw a lot of stocks do reasonably well within that space. Meghmani has it has certain advantages in terms of approvals, etc. So I think it's a good story, and I think you can stay invested in the stock or even buy at these levels.
I think we have just little time. I'm going to slip in one more query of Rangarajan. Aditya, I'm going to come to you. He wants to know for the next 6 months, what should be the support, resistance and target price for Sun TV?
Okay, great. So Sun TV, it's close to about its support zone. The major support I look at it is 760. 760 is a very good support for the stock. Immediate resistance on the upside is at 820 and the next resistance is at 850. These are the two resistance levels. I think stock is in that corrective mode right now, but post this correction that we have seen, stock looks good to me, attractive at current levels. One can go ahead and buy the stock, keep a stop close to about the support level of 750 for a target of 850 to 900.
Okay, that's a buy or coming in on Sun TV. It's bottomed out, you suggested, or no?
Almost bottomed out, yes.
Okay. All right, on that note, I would like to thank all our viewers for writing in their queries to us. Do tune in on Monday as well and have a good weekend. I also want to thank both our guests here, Sharmila and Aditya. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Well, that's all that we have on this edition of Ask PQ.
As always, do remember that we're just a tweet, post or call away. Have a fantastic weekend. The World Cup finals are just around the corner. So, well, I was rooting for Egypt and Egypt lost. So unfortunately,
you have only two options now. Come on, choose. What is it?
Binary. Who are they again?
Croatia and France. Okay.
Croatia, always the underdog. Always the underdog. On that note, thank you so much for watching. Up next is Power Lunch.